I am pleased to present Ric Peri, VP for Government Industry Affairs of AEA, who has a new boss.
I do.
Get along with the guy? I understand he's just a real prima donna type.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, he keeps talking about hard shoes to fill from as far as what Paul has left behind, but we haven't seen him in the heels yet, so I don't know.
I know.
No, I'll tell you what, he's an inspired choice. We're going to have a lot of fun breaking him in.
Yep.
But let's get down to brass tacks here. You are Mr. Regulation for AEA. You've done extraordinary work in puzzling through all of Washington and various foreign governments' chicanery. But right now, there's this real interesting discussion going on about criminalizing and politicizing the certification process, where it may have gone right, may have gone wrong, because nobody knows, because no facts are really in evidence yet,
right.
But everybody wants a solution now, damn it, now. But it's scarier than hell for the folks whose livelihoods and literally lives depend on certification to think that some political know-it-all, who can barely spell aileron, is going to be mucking up the process.
Yep.
Take it away, Ric Peri.
Well, that's a heck of a lead-in, thank you.
Hey, anytime, anything for a friend.
You know, I think the challenge that you face is that, as you said, first of all, we don't have the facts.
Yeah.
We don't even have the data reports from the flight data recorder or the cockpit voice recorder. So this is all 100% hypothetical.
It's interesting that none of that stuff has shown up yet.
Well, and unfortunately, no kidding.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge we face is that, you know, you've got the politicians on one side, and you've got the public for a lot of it that say, oh my goodness, there is an airplane. And everybody assumes that all airplanes are the same. However, the airplane may be built the same, but it is flown differently. And you have to look at all of the pieces of the puzzle before you can really find out what is the piece that, for whatever reason, may or may not have been, quote, certified properly. Is it the aircraft? Is it the flight operations? Is it the pilot? Each of those elements have a distinct part to play in this unfortunate outcome. But let's focus on the certification, okay? We have arguably a new technology. There's no indication that that new technology was not certified properly. There's no indication that the I's weren't crossed, or the I's weren't dotted, the T's weren't crossed, and that anybody shortchanged the system. Now, we know there's cause and effect, and there may have been a breakdown between the physical certification and possibly flight training, or between the physical certification and the data in the flight manual. We've seen that before. That's not terribly unusual. And we correct it. But there's no indication that the certification itself was deficient.
Especially when you do just a rote statistical analysis of where aviation safety sits right now,
right.
Realizing that even with these horrible stats of the last few weeks, we have never been safer.
Right. It's you know, the engineering and certification process, and I sit on a number of committees that work on this. We're constantly process improvement. You have engineers within the FAA who are migrating from system engineers to process auditors for a number of reasons. You look around this exhibit hall, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You look at the technology, you look at the new product demonstration on Monday. How does any one individual become a subject matter expert on everything that was introduced at the new product demonstration? That's unrealistic.
It's impossible.
It is impossible. So the FAA, in their wisdom, recognize they have to rely on subject matter experts to be able to truly understand these new technologies. And they are, in fact, the designees. They work well, they do well, and they are absolutely the subject matter experts.
One of the things that bothers me about the current general media assault on all this, and as somebody who's worked with Boeing on a number of projects and as a consultant and so forth, Boeing, no matter what the balance book may tell you, the most important aspect of Boeing in regards to safety is a Boeing lawyer. They are not going to let anybody do anything stupid. I've met a few of these men and women. They're vicious. They are out to do anything they possibly can to protect Boeing, and the best way they can protect Boeing is make sure that they're building the safest product possible. A lot of these guys guys and gals are engineers, or they're pilots. They know what they're talking about. And does anybody really believe that any of these companies are going to sustain multi-million-dollar losses because they think they're going to shave a couple of dollars off here and there? Ridiculous.
There's a fundamental missing here,
yeah.
Okay? And that is, I don't care who your business is. Boeing,
Yep.
These manufacturers are repair stations. It doesn't matter. There is a fundamental to business. Safety is good business.
It is.
Accidents and incidents are simply bad business.
Yes.
With or without the FAA and with or without the safety regulators, and I don't want to take anything away from their job, but the reality is there is nobody in this industry that wakes up in the morning and goes, I think I'm going to cheat. I'm not worried about it. Everybody's here. This is good business. Boeing is a good company. They exercise good business. There was nothing shady going on. I'm confident of that. It was something that, you know, the pieces didn't connect in the puzzle.
Unreal.
Yep.
Unreal. Do you see the potential for damage done to this industry as a result of this kind of hysteria?
Always. Okay. The pendulum swings, and
Yep.
and you know, unfortunately, you know, we end up with something that's focused on heavy transport aircraft, commercial air transport, and that pendulum swing and picks up general aviation on the way. The good news is that when the data comes out, and I feel confident that both the FAA and the Department of Transportation will have the time and ability to truly look through the system. When that comes out, I think that the entire designee system will be exonerated. It'll be old news, and we'll move on. They will find the technical glitches that may have been something that needed higher scrutiny. But one of the things that's interesting
Well,
is...
let's face it, you don't have a product truly certified until it gets in the hands of the great unwashed public and the operators.
Exactly. But on top of this, the certification plan, that is that checklist. What is it that I'm going to look at? What's the depth that I'm going to look at these things? All of those aren't delegated.
No.
Those are inherently governmental. So the FAA is already establishing that stuff. It's only the showing how we did this that the designee participates in. And so the reality is, it's really a stretch. It's really a stretch. I think it'll be fine. We will see probably over the next 6 months a pretty cautious approach to things. So a lot of the products that are in the pipeline right now will probably end up with a little bit longer pipeline. But when the dust settles, I have faith that you know, the good will prevail, and we'll be fine.
Let's take on something a bit more pleasant.
Good.
The avionics industry over the past couple of years, in its interface with the FAA and with certification standards that have evolved,
Okay.
has allowed a level of innovation that we've never seen before, and allowed a number of new products to come to fore that were in the bailiwick of the experimental industry. It has also lowered costs. It has forced certain manufacturers to realize, okay, I can't quite get $1 bazillion for it anymore. I'm going to have to settle for half $1 billion.
Sure.
How is that coming along? Was this part of a truly evolutionary process, or did somebody really turn us about?
It was an evolutionary process, okay? And
this is where you and I disagree, but go ahead.
It's okay. We will agree to disagree here.
Yes, that's half the fun.
Mostly because understand that I've been an active participant in this one.
Oh yeah.
For the entire spectrum.
Yes.
30 years ago, we were certifying things very similarly to how we're certifying them today.
Okay.
It was that 30-year gap in between that we lost our way. Okay?
Okay.
So what happened was, 30 years ago, the migration of electronics was top-down. So when you look at the TSOs are typically driven to the highest expected level of application. So the TSOs are written for large commercial airplanes with large commercial applications. As you come down through that process, when we had analog systems, you didn't notice it because all you were doing was making analog systems a little bit smaller. And you made them smaller and lighter so they fit in general aviation airplanes. But it was a downward migration. With the invention of the PC, the microprocessor, our cell phones, our tablets, and all that technology, what we started to see was an upward migration of technology. Well, the problem with that was, when you have a top-down approach to digital technology, now you're driving this digital technology certification as if everything is going into an Airbus 380 or a Boeing 787. Clearly driving these products outside of the price point for general aviation. Mm-hmm. So something had to give. They did not change the certification standards. They did not change what we're certifying. What they did change was how we're certifying. So instead of certifying it at the TSO level of a large commercial airplane, mm-hmm. we're able to certify it for the intended purpose under PMA, mm-hmm. Parts Manufacturing Authority. Both of them approved parts, both of them certified. Both of them demonstrated compliance to the regulatory process. Mm-hmm. But the standards for a light single-engine piston are significantly different than a 40,000-foot large commercial aircraft. That's all that took place.
Okay. I still think...
You're thinking.
I still think, you know, it's funny, I'm not the FAA's best spokesperson and have not been by and large, but I think, especially under Mike Huerta and followed through mm-hmm. a little bit by Dan Elwell, I think they nudged it in a couple of directions where there was resistance, where the evolutionary wasn't taking place. And I got that feeling from people I was talking to that there were areas where it could have been stopped and it wasn't. So
that's not to say that the pendulum didn't overswing.
Yeah. Gotcha.
I'm not disputing that. Anytime you have a transitional process, you have that swing goes maybe a little bit too far. But notwithstanding that, the fundamental is there. And there's products that have been certified that was an overstretch of regulation that was corrected afterwards, and it'll never happen again. Yeah. Okay. However, it wasn't the demonstration of conformity that wasn't done. It was simply the methodology that was followed. Now, understand that these rules, the regulations did not change. Okay? We were never prohibited from doing what we're doing today. Mm-hmm. But there was a philosophical shift because everybody over the last 30 years, and realizing that we're dealing with a very entrenched bureaucracy. So coming out of 30 years ago, we had a very established comfort zone. So everybody goes, oh, we're going to do what's comfortable. Well, and it was the leadership of the FAA that said, get out of your comfort zone.
Right.
The rules give us a lot of flexibility. They give us a lot of opportunity. We need to use the rules to get safety enhancing equipment into these aircraft, because I can't put a large Boeing or Airbus panel in a 172. I can't justify it. But I can put a 172 panel in a 172. Now I can't put the 172 panel in Boeing,
Yeah.
okay, which is fine. But up until we had this transformation, most of the parts that I was buying for my 172 could be sold for a 737.
Okay. Interesting stuff. Rick, unfortunately, we're running out of time already. I've always enjoyed the fact that we tend to finish up the day throughout the end of these conventions with you. I'm looking forward to seeing what the next year brings, especially in light of some of the politicization. We'll have to stay in touch.
Yep.
Keep me up to date, anything you think important. Any last words?
No, I think we're in a great place. I think this show this year shows that.
Oh boy, does it ever.
The new product demonstration is absolutely unbelievable, and you know, I watch the new products, and I've got almost 5 decades in aviation now, and I get pretty excited coming here. Reality is things are good. Don't let the politics overpower you. I have a lot of faith in DOT and the FAA. You know, we'll find out what's wrong with the system, and we'll make adjustments to the system, just like we make adjustments to our equipment.
Yeah.
Okay, and we'll move forward, and I feel very confident about that.
Rick, thanks so much for everything.
You bet.
Ric Peri, AEA's expert about everything regulation and politics, and a person we've relied on over the course of many years to get to the nitty-gritty of what's going on out there in Washington and elsewhere, and we sure appreciate the time.
Aero-News Network's coverage of the 62nd Annual AEA International Convention and Trade Show, live from Palm Springs, California, is brought to you in part by the following sponsors.